All right, if you're gearing up for the ACCA LWENG exam, there's one topic you've absolutely got to nail: how companies actually make decisions. It's not like one person just snaps their fingers. So today, we are pulling back the curtain on the formal machinery behind every big corporate move, the world of meetings and resolutions.
So let's kick things off with a big question, right? Think about it. A company isn't just one person. It's a legal thing, an entity, and it can have tons of owners, shareholders. So how on earth does this massive, spread-out group all agree on one single legally binding decision? Like, how do they all decide, yep, let's get a new director, or, you know what, we're changing the company name? It's a huge puzzle.
And the answer, which has been fine-tuned over centuries of law, is the company meeting. The best way to think of it, it's like the company's own little parliament. It's the official, legally recognized place where the shareholders, who are basically the voters, get to show up, have their say, and cast their votes to steer the ship.
But here's the thing, meeting isn't a one-size-fits-all term. For your exam, you really need to know the difference between two specific types. Getting this right is absolutely key.
Okay, so you've got two main players on the field here. First, there's the AGM, the Annual General Meeting. That name kind of gives it away, right? It's the big one that happens once a year, and it's all about handling the routine stuff. Then you've got the General Meeting, or GM. Think of this one as the company's emergency hotline. It gets called only when something urgent pops up that just can't wait for the next AGM.
So yeah, a general meeting is all about speed and dealing with the unexpected. Let's say a surprise takeover bid lands on the table. The board can't just sit on that for 10 months until the next scheduled meeting. Nope. They'd call a GM right then and there to tackle that one specific issue.
The AGM, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. It's the steady, predictable heartbeat of the company. It's mandatory. It has to happen every single year. It's where all the essential, legally required business gets done, like clockwork. Signing off on the accounts, bringing in the auditors, picking directors. It's the company's annual health check.
Okay, so now we know where the decisions get made. But how does a simple show of hands in a stuffy meeting room actually become a real, legally binding action? It needs an official stamp. And that's where something called a resolution comes into play. A resolution is basically the legal magic wand. It's the formal document that turns a simple vote into an official decision. It's the proof, the legal seal of approval, that makes what the shareholders decided binding on everyone. Without a properly passed resolution, a vote is it's just talk. It has no legal power. Right, now this is the part where you really need to lean in, because the numbers matter a lot. See, not all decisions carry the same weight. Some just need a basic nod of approval, while others, the really big ones, need a huge amount of support. And these different levels of agreement, they're all about the voting thresholds.
For the ACCA exam, you've got to be super comfortable with these three: the ordinary resolution, the special resolution, and then there's this other one that's a bit different, the written resolution. Let's break them down one by one.
We're going to start with the most common one, the absolute workhorse of company decision-making, the ordinary resolution.
Just think of this one as the default setting. It's what you use for all the normal day-to-day business of a company. Things like bringing on a new director or giving the final dividend the thumbs up. Basically, unless the law specifically says you need to clear a higher bar, an ordinary resolution is all you need.
So, what's the magic number to get one of these passed? Well, it's the most basic test in corporate democracy, a simple majority.
Yep, just a sliver over 50% of the votes that are actually cast. So if 100 people vote, you just need 51 of them to say yes. It's literally just more people for it than against it. Simple as that. Okay, but what about those really massive decisions? The ones that could change the very DNA of the company? Well, for those, we got to raise the bar. We need a special resolution.
Now we're talking about the big stuff, the game changers. Things like changing the company's own rulebook, its constitution, or deciding to change its legal name. Because these aren't just everyday decisions. The law says, whoa, hold on, we need a much higher level of agreement for this.
For these kinds of decisions, that simple majority just isn't going to cut it. Not even close. The law demands what's called a supermajority. It's a much, much tougher hurdle to clear.
And here it is. This is the number you absolutely have to remember: 75%. At least 3/4 of the votes have to be in favor. Now, why so high? Well, it's a safety measure, really. It stops a company's entire identity from being changed on a whim and protects the smaller shareholders from being railroaded on the really fundamental issues.
Okay, our last one works a little bit differently. So, what if you're a small, private company and trying to get everyone together in one room is just a massive headache? Well, that's where the written resolution comes in clutch.
This is a pretty clever tool, but it's only for private companies. Instead of a meeting, you just circulate a document with the proposed resolution on it, and the shareholders literally sign on the dotted line to show they agree. And the voting rules? They're exactly the same. You still need over 50% for an ordinary one and 75% for a special one. It just lets you skip the whole meeting part.
Okay, let's pull all that together. Seriously, if you're going to screenshot a slide, this is the one. You've got your ordinary resolution, that's your 50% for everyday business. You've got your special resolution, the big, greater than 75% for those massive constitutional changes. And the written resolution? It uses the same numbers. It's just a way to do it without a meeting. Clean, simple, and 100% need to know.
Wow, we've covered a ton of ground. So let's do a super quick recap of the absolute must-know facts for your exam. These are the things that are almost guaranteed to pop up in questions.
All right, let's lock this in. AGM, that's your annual checkout. GM, that's the emergency room. Ordinary vote, just over 50% for the normal stuff. Special vote, a whopping 75% or more for the really big changes. And that written resolution, that's your meeting-free shortcut. But remember, the voting rules don't change. Got it? Good.
And just to leave you with a little something to chew on, we've just gone through this whole system built around formal meetings and strict procedures. But in our world of Zoom calls and instant messages, you have to wonder, is this old-school, structured way of doing things still the best way to make sure company decisions are fair and effective? Just something to think about.